And literally the day I got back on 4th of July, I had to start sparring Bobby Green for 4 weeks until I was helping him get ready for Tony Ferguson. So yeah, it was.
How does one do that? Because are you trying to emulate Tony Ferguson at this point, or are you just doing your own thing, or do they have a special directive for you that's like, hey, can you do this for us?
For this one, I think it was more thanks to Bobby, he liked my style, and we just had some back and forth. It wasn't so much emulating Tony Ferguson. It was just he appreciated that I wasn't a little bitch and was just running away. I mean, it's hard to find people that like to stand there and get punched for fun, especially when you're not the one in the starlight that time.
That you didn't show up with like pocket sand and throw it in his face and be like, hey man, I'm going to do a quick little somersault here and emulate some of this chaotic movement that the CSO does.
Every time I try to do something, he was right there smacking me, so I didn't get much,
What is up, ladies and gents? It is your friendly neighborhood BJJ podcaster, Rafa Esparza, coming to you with another great installment of the Grappling Hour. I'm very excited for today, and I'll tell you why in a second, but it's not often that I get people to do an interview after I've commentated one of their MMA fights. So today we have somebody who I recently saw. I enjoyed their fight. I wanted to talk to them about it. They're kind of a beast, and I figured let's give them their proper due today. But some housekeeping before we get to our guest. Number one, if you like this show, even if you don't, I really don't care, but you can like and support us. And the way you can do that is going over to HY.PAGE/Grappling Hour. If you want to see these interviews 30 days before anybody else, go on over there, pay $5 a month, see them for 30 days before anybody else. And then, if you're so inclined, you can also become a premium member for a couple extra dollars to see extra bonus content. We're talking extra episodes. We're talking some of my own rolling footage. We're talking, some funny things that happen to me. We're doing additional segments like with the athletes where we ask them about steroids or the athletes that they've had the most respect for, that they've competed against. You'd be surprised on some of the answers. And we have a new segment where they're actually roasting some of my competition footage. And it's pretty funny in my opinion. So do that, HY.PAGE/Grappling Hour. You can also check us out on our Discord where we indulge a lot of nonsense. So anything that happens in the show, you'll hear it here in that Discord first. And you can find that at Grappling Hour as well. All right, let's talk about our guest. So what I was impressed with our guest when I was commentating was his tenacity, his great showmanship. He really put together an excellent fight. And he's somebody who's local out this way in Southern California. And I've watched him fight before. I've watched him do some jiu-jitsu stuff. And the kid doesn't stop. And I think that's really fun. And to me, whenever I see somebody who puts that kind of work out there, it's always nice to let them know that other people are watching their work, they respect their work, they like it. And I guess to find out if I said anything that was offensive, because he is here and he hasn't mentioned anything. But if there is something that I said that's offensive, we can get down to the bottom of that. So we can figure that out in just a second. But I want to introduce the recent winner of a SPARSTAR fight, a gentleman who is very kind, very nice, and I'm looking forward to talking to right about now. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome for the very first time, Eleno Almanza. All right, did I do it right?
No, you put an A.
God damn it. You know what it is? On here, L-E-A. No, yeah, it's not happening. All right, so say your name so that anybody watching this can laugh at my idioticness, sir.
So my name is Eleno Almanza.
Yeah, so it sounds easier when you do it, and it's probably because you've had it your entire life. I think the hard part is I can start the bird landing, but then the wheels don't come down on the plane, and then we kind of crash a little bit. So I apologize. It's also very difficult when you have your dad here, because your dad's here, and there's an extra added emphasis of like, oh, I'm going to screw this up right in front of this man's father. This is not going to be well.
Yeah, you can blame that guy.
Oh, he said no worries, so I'm going to roll with that. Yeah. Your dad is an awesome form of support, by the way. Coming here just to kind of chill while we're doing this, I think is really, really awesome to see. So props to your father for being here.
I think I promised the old man lunch for carpooling. So yeah.
Oh man, where do you think you're going to take him?
I don't know. We'll see what's in the neighborhood, and we've never been out this way, so we'll check it out. See what we can get.
Okay. We can talk a little bit off air on some recommendations, but do you have an idea of where you think you want to take him, or what kind of food you're looking for?
Here probably more Mediterranean. It seems to be the scene out in this area, so probably be smarter to try something like that.
I think that's a good choice. All right. So with having said all of that, obviously I mentioned to you a little bit off air that you were fighting and I was commentating on your match, and that I didn't offend you enough where you didn't come. So I feel good that you're here in person. I feel like that means that you didn't hate it. Is there anything that I said that you objected to on your fight?
Man, for the most part, you're pretty spot on. Outside of calling me tired the whole time, I was pretty tired, but you don't have to keep mentioning it.
Well, okay, hold on. No. You were saying that I'm accurate, but do you see your own output? Like, it's not something that's very low. And all things considered, there are a couple times where I saw you being what I think a human can be, which is kind of tired from all the output that you were putting out there, sir.
No, yeah. I mean, I was definitely trying to give it all I had. I was trying to get the job done early, like I was saying. I went in with a bum knee, so I wasn't trying to spend the whole fight in there, but ended up doing all 3 rounds, and well, we made the best of it. You know, we can't knock everybody out.
No. But you gave us a show, and I mean, that was really something that I was impressed by. But is your knee feeling better? Like, it's a few weeks out since that happened. How is your knee feeling now?
Right now, I'm like at probably like 60%. It's weird. I can't really bear much weight on it. So I can say if I had a butterfly hook, and if I try to pick you up with it and you sprawled out, I'm definitely done at the moment.
Got it.
I'll sit there and have to play half guard and pretend like it didn't just happen for like a minute.
Gonna write that down. Just play butterfly and smash pass. Got it. Okay. Having said that, though, how do you train week of when you have a fight and that happens? Because when did this injury happen? And clearly you ended up going through with the fight. So there has to be kind of a change in the way that you're training, I'm assuming, right?
Oh yeah, man. It was interesting. All my coaches asked me not to go through with the fight. They all said you shouldn't fight. Actually, today's my friend's birthday. The guy who helped me hurt my leg. Shout out to my boy Cadence Turner out there. Happy birthday, bro. Keep it going. I had just got done doing a promo video with my boy Oscar. He was hooking me up, recording me at the gym, and I had took my boy Cadence down. He ankle picked me, and his ankle pick was so fast. I was seeing the sky, and I jumped up. I said, "Nah, fuck that, dude. We're gonna have a shootout now." And I tied up with him. I loaded him up, and I was just exhausted already, cutting weight, a week before the fight, and I took a really shitty double leg, and when he sprawled on me, dude, my knee just popped like on the shot. I told him, get off me. I tried to get up and keep wrestling, and I was told, nah, bro, you need to take a break. And like, I took the next 2 days off, didn't do nothing. I mean, then I just said, I can't sit around, but I can't grapple. So I was in the boxing gym just punching the heavy bag like for 10 rounds. But I don't know why I was doing that, because most of the fight I did a lot of grappling.
Well, it's because you were hoping that you would be able to keep it standing so that you didn't have to put as much emphasis on like any of your weight bearing legs.
Yes. And to be honest, it just was seemed more natural to start grappling. Probably because I just recently competed in the ADCC Tijuana Open. I'm in the expert division. I took a bronze medal home. It was all right. Pretty good time. So I think that was a little bit more in my mind, a little second nature at the moment, because I was just grappling. Then literally the day I got back on 4th of July, I had to start sparring Bobby Green for 4 weeks until I was helping him get ready for Tony Ferguson. So yeah, it was.
How does one do that? Because are you trying to emulate Tony Ferguson at this point, or are you just doing your own thing, or do they have a special directive for you that's like, hey, can you do this for us?
For this one, I think it was more thanks to Bobby, he liked my style, and we just had some back and forth. It wasn't so much emulating Tony Ferguson. It was just he appreciated that I wasn't a little bitch and was just running away. I mean, it's hard to find people that like to stand there and get punched for fun, especially when you're not the one in the starlight that time. So
it is difficult to find good training partners, period.
Right.
But then if you're fighting, it's an even more difficult task to find somebody who's up to that, and somebody whose work that you admire enough to say like, hey man, I trust you to keep me safe while I get ready for this fight. Having said that, when that does happen, I guess I wanted to clear out one thing, which is that you didn't show up with like pocket sand and throw it in his face and be like, hey man, I'm going to do a quick little somersault here and emulate some of this chaotic movement that the CSO does.
Every time I try to do something, he was right there smacking me, so I didn't get much, you know. Yeah, Bobby's one of the fastest guys I've ever had to spar with, bro. Shout out Bobby for them hands. Boy, them hands is fast.
Was this your first time working with Bobby?
Yeah, this is my first time working with Bobby. I'll be working with him again for his next fight he has coming out. Can't say too much, but we have another fight coming out, and we'll be back in the gym together.
I have to say, I think it's pretty dope to see him in the community. Like, I see him at like local grappling competitions, supporting his team and being in the general vicinity. So it is very cool because you look over, and I've had people tell me in the past, they're like, yo, is that Bobby Green here? And I was like, he wouldn't. Oh, that is. Oh, shit. Because my man stands out when he's there.
Oh, yeah, bro. He's, you know, that guy likes to shine. And he's put himself in a position where he can do that. And I admire that because outside of working with him, I didn't know too much about him. So once I started doing my homework on Bobby and started to see, you know what, he's not just some thug who's just trying to thug out, you know, no, he's actually gives back to the community. And I admire that because that's something I want to be able to do in my future, is to be able to get back to East LA and give my community a shot. You know, it's very hard, especially coming from rough neighborhoods, and for people to be afforded an opportunity when you're already starting in debt, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's also difficult because I think so many people have noble intentions, but trying to actually do it can be difficult because it's hard for people to just live, period.
Right.
Let alone then give back. So it's always like, hey man, let me get my situation figured out and then let me see what I can do to give back. Yeah. But I just know that when Bobby has all this attention from his really massively successful UFC career and awesome fight knockouts, like you look at that and you think, all right, if this dude respects me enough to work with him, that's got to give you some extra confidence in your own fight career as well, right?
Most definitely. He's given me some great advice before. I can't complain about every time we get done sparring, he's always explaining, hey, Leno, you need to work on this, or you're doing this good. He's never giving me bad advice, you know? I can actually say that's one man that I've worked with, and every time I get done sparring, I've learned something.
That's what's up, man. That's really cool. And I'm very happy to hear that because like I said, I just think it's kind of cool. And as a jiu-jitsu guy, sometimes you don't expect this knockout artist to be at a competition supporting his boys. But it does tell you a little bit about that person when you see them showing up and you're like, they don't have to be here. Okay, that's kind of cool to see them there.
That's on a personal note, so that's you can appreciate something.
Absolutely. So I definitely appreciate that, and I like the fact that you were doing that. So let me figure out this trajectory here. When did you know that you were going to be fighting at SPARSTAR, timeline wise?
So they asked me to fight the previous card. They wanted to be in that tournament for the featherweight belt. I denied it because I was working on some things in life, you know, just trying to get situated again. And then once I went and I watched the event, I was like, dude, I could have been fighting in the next event, the event I fought in. It could have been me fighting for the belt opposed to watching these guys. But, you know, my cards played out a certain way, and I'm right there. I'm on writing a 3-fight win streak at the moment. And, well, we're looking to get the title next. That's what we have. So just get healthy and we'll fight. As opposed to knowing I was going to fight for them, I probably knew about like 5 weeks out that they had an opponent for me. I get like, dude, no one wants to really fight me. Every time I get an opponent, it's like I should not be fighting this guy at the amateur level. Like I get really, really good. I mean, you've seen Quest he's a pretty good fighter. He has a very good stand-up game. Obviously, his grappling needs a lot of work, but his stand-up was not too bad. I can't complain about that.
And Quest, I thought the most interesting question that he posed to you was his reach. So sometimes when you have to have somebody that has that good of a reach and you've got a good grappling game, trying to get on the inside can be a problem. So you have to work angles, you have to use speed, you have to use a whole bunch of things to try and surprise him. And the thing is, he's not slow.
Correct.
So when that happens, it can be a frustrating game, but I felt like you came up with a lot of solutions, both as a credit to your game plan with your team, But also what I was observing, and you can tell me differently, was just you rendering new decisions in real time. Like you having to say like, okay, I can't do this like this here. I have to change the approach or what I'm doing or what I was planning to do.
To be honest, I think that's probably like my biggest attribute is my ability to swap on the fly. I'm not one of these guys who you could prep for, and like you could obviously say I'm going to stand there and box, but I actually have a kickboxing and karate background as well outside of grappling and boxing. It's just these last 2 camps, I didn't do any kicking. I just was boxing with a lot of people. So what really confused me the most about the range was once he started kicking, I was like, oh yeah, I didn't do any kicking in my sparring. It's just pretty dumb knowing I was fighting a kick. But I have so much faith in my power that it wasn't really like, if you paid attention to when he hit me and when I hit him, he was like point fighting where every time I hit that guy, he took 3 steps back and ran away. And he tried to keep me at the end of everything. And I mean, I blocked the majority of his kicks. Outside of the leg kicks he was landing, I feel like 95% of his head kicks I blocked.
I would say this, which is having learned that you had some, an injury that you were going into this fight with, it does bring up new perspectives because I didn't know that when I was commentating the match. And then, we kind of learn more about that after the fact, right? So when you start putting things together, you go, oh, okay. And even now, as you're telling me what it was like to work and get in that experience with him in real time. But what's more telling to me is the fact that you couldn't really, in a smart way, engage in a kickboxing match with him in a way that maybe you would have liked to with a healthier leg as well. So it kind of makes you have to go, you know what? As much as I want to kind of show like I'm right here or I can do this, you're like, it's going to be smarter to create a different game plan for him.
Correct. Like if you don't know if you noticed in the first round, when I went for my takedowns, I didn't shoot. I didn't drop a knee because I normally most wrestlers, I'm a right leg league, and when you drop a knee, I can't. At the time, I couldn't drop a knee, so I said body locks to the double and up and down, and work that. The only time I did drop my knee was when I was exhausted in the 3rd round, and that was shit.
Hold on, I just want to point out he said he was exhausted. I didn't. Yeah. Okay, so. If my man here is like, hey, why are you telling people I'm exhausted? I was. And I go, I'm sorry, dude. Meanwhile, cut to you being like, I was exhausted in round 3. And I'm like, I didn't invent it. Yeah, I'm just saying what I'm saying, man.
Yeah. It's just easier people just to watch it and oh yeah, he was tired.
Okay. You know what the dumb part is? If I was trying to hide and give everybody's best shine, then it doesn't help the build.
Definitely. And I really appreciate that about you, that you're very honest. And even with your commentating, it was like, even though I was like, he's talking about that other guy now. Like, why are you talking about him? I mean, I get it. It's your job, bro. We're all here to do our part. I mean, my job's to put on a show. Your job's to make the show more entertaining.
I'll tell you this, which is that this comes from an old pro wrestling perspective. And I wish more people understood this one thing, which is that it's easy to go on. Let's say you have a fight with somebody and trash them. Right. Which says, I'm going to walk right through you. But if you watch a really good pro wrestler, and the whole thing is supposed to be hype, which is buy the pay-per-view, buy our product, buy this. What they start with is, man, they're really good at what they do. But I got to tell you one thing about them. They're not as good as me. They put over their opponent first. Right. And it's usually very subtle. And sometimes it doesn't even sound like they're putting over the other person. It's just them being like, yeah, I'm hearing a lot of people say that this guy is the guy, that he's the best in the world. Right. But he's not the best in the world. I'm the best in the world. And you realize what he did was he's basically saying like, no one said any of that.
Right.
But I'm putting him over subtly. So in order for both of you to get your shine, you have to kind of, as a commentator, make sure that if it's a one-sided affair, it's got to be well, maybe he's having an off day. I don't know. Because I always think somebody and their family is going to go watch this. And I have definitely done matches that were garbage that you kind of look and you go, what benefit do they get by me saying this is trash?
Right.
Like a man is going out there trying to do their best. It's not going to be okay to just be like, yeah, it's trash. I think you try to find the good in it. And what I thought for Quest is your efforts only seem as good as the obstacles that you have.
Correct.
So if we're talking about as reach, it's not that it's an impossible reach. It's just that it poses a question, and that a lot of the times you found answers to that. And then on his side, even though he doesn't win, if he goes back, he can live in knowing like, hey man, we respected what you did on this or this. So that if anybody ever has an issue, whatever I'm saying on air, it's like, go back and listen to it. Like maybe you're still in your feelings, but I know when I'm being highly insultive, and especially at an AMI show where let's call a spade. Some people don't always have winning records when I'm commentating on their matches. You don't want to be rude to those people, man. They're getting out there. This is their first fight. So it's not quite the UFC, but you want to give them the respect like that you believe they deserve. So that's a little bit on my side on how I do things. Because, yeah, man, I looked at that and I was just like, I thought you guys were a very fun match. And I think that made it captivating to those of us who were watching it. What was the best responses that you got from friends and family? Like, what was the feedback that you got from that fight?
I mean, as far as the fight, everyone was very happy with it. To be honest, when I made him bleed in the first 10 seconds, I didn't know if he was bleeding or I was bleeding. As soon as he hit the ground and I seen blood, I was like, who the fuck is bleeding right now? Where is this blood coming from? Why is the ref bleeding? Like, where is this blood coming from, man? And luckily it was him and not me. And that kind of shocked me. I was like, okay, I didn't realize I cut him. And even when I go back and watch the fight, I'm trying to find where I cut him. I mean, the only thing I could think of was a left hook that I hit in the first opening sequence. Yeah, it was very surreal. His ability to maintain distance was very well, and especially I'm a very explosive fighter, and I wasn't able to cover the ground that I wanted on one leg. I was very cautious with my blitzing because I didn't want to blitz, and then when I went to recoil, my leg would give out, slip from underneath me. So I wasn't trying to look for his big power shots. I was sticking with that overhand right a little bit more, to just because I noticed it was there more and often, but he started figuring it out and started pulling his head. I wasn't trying to do too much chasing either, outside of the takedowns. But if you notice, even when I took him down in the first round and I got to the mount, when I got to mount, it wasn't really secure because I couldn't stabilize it. I couldn't grapevine my legs properly how I wanted to. And even when I got to Neon Valley, I wasn't able to. I was keeping my right leg very far, so I wouldn't have to worry of him trying to grab it and yank it in.
See, again, this is why I always like discussing these things, which, by the way, if you guys want to see an actual breakdown of his fight, we're going to do a separate segment for people who are behind the paywall.
Better watch it so they don't freaking keep crying. I don't know, Quest keeps crying, bro. He texted. Well, he didn't text me. He posted like, in time the technique will come. And I have this dude, you can learn any technique you want, but you can't beat heart and soul, baby. If someone's willing to put their heart and soul on the line, I don't give a fuck what you learn. Like, you seen it there, dude. My guy was not trying to knock me out. He was out there trying to point fight. And, every time I hit him, it was real. Everything I went with was for the kill, regardless of how I looked towards the end. Every time I looked, I was trying to kill the dude.
Let me ask this. Okay, so what do you mean by that? Because has he sent you messages, or is this his posts that he's put up as a result of this? Because where we left off, in my opinion, I thought was where you were like, oh yeah, we're cool and we're good. But did he put up something that was kind of like, give me time, or, oh, I could do this? Like, yeah. I'm confused on that part.
Yeah, man. He posted, he just put up a post like with his little highlight, which is respectable. You had your little moments in the fight. Yeah. That's cool. But, history is written by the victors, bro. You take your loss and you shut the fuck up, And then, I just commented. He said, in time, the technique will come. And I just knew it. Dude, you're from fucking Orange County. You live in Newport Beach. You probably don't have the same adversity. Like, every person you've lost to in the last 3 fights is a Latino-based fighter. Whether, I don't know if they're all Mexican, but I know you've lost to a bunch of Latino-based fighter, and I'm pretty sure they've been smacked with a chancla, bro. So that chancla is scarier than anything you fucking bring to the cage. My mom was there, ready with the chancla. So I don't give a fuck if I had to fight on no legs. Dude, I was in that cage, I promise you, bro. You're nothing scarier than
Fair enough. Okay, great. Let me redirect this real quick, because I don't know that I got an answer to how do you train a week of? Because in my brain, when you mentioned it happened the week of,
right,
that this injury happened, are we talking like within 7 days, 5 days, 8 days? Like, how many days before the fight did that actually happen?
Thursday.
So almost like 10 days?
Yeah, it was a Thursday prior to the week of.
So let's just say 9 days before the fight.
9 days before the fight, I was already cutting on some slippery mats. It was a no-gi day. It's already, I mean, we were fighting in August, so it's probably like 90, 100 degrees in the gym.
And then you mentioned that your team was kind of like, maybe don't take the fight, or was that ever not an option? Because for you, it's different, but I'm wondering what your team was thinking at the moment.
My boxing coach wasn't very fond of me continuing the fight because he seen my mobility was off. But at the same time, I was still very confident in my abilities on one leg. And well, I mean, I've already sold too many tickets, and I believe in myself. If I'm the type of motherfucker, I believe in me, and I believe in you more than you believe in you, to be honest with you. I'm that guy that no matter, the cup's always half full for me. You know, I believe I have a different type of belief system. I've made it through so many different types of adversity that I can't be denied what I wanted, because I've paid my dues, and you won't deny me, even if it's going to cost me to the point where I'm going to be throwing up. One of my buddies, dude, I was cage side, or like literally right when the fight was over, I guess he thought I was winning the belt, my buddy Mark, and he thought I was winning the belt, and he took a picture, and it was me holding the trash can, throwing up right after the fight in the cage. And he posted it, and he goes, "Oh, my bad, bro. I thought you won the belt." I was like, "Dude, I'm holding a trash can."
First of all, how drunk was he that he
they
did?
were pretty hammered, bro. That's probably why SPARSTAR loves me so much, because my people show up and they buy all the alcohol, bro. They're the
I have to say, I've been drunk many times in my life, but I don't know that I've ever been oh, look at that. That trash can's a championship belt drunk. Because that is a specific kind of drunk, my friend.
One of my buddies, Marble, made it in the cage. I don't even know how. He's not even... Dude, he was in the cage trying to pick me up, and I was like... At first I thought he was my dad, and then I was like, wait, this isn't my dad. I was like, what are you doing here? How did you get in here, bro? Like, it just make no sense. It was freaking hilarious.
I will say, I think one of the most confusing jobs for most people in security whenever they do these things is that they can't take the time to delineate. Like, I'm a photographer on some of these events, and they've done this to me where they're like, you can't go up there. And I go, I have a camera. I'm not trying to be in anybody's celebration. I just want a good photo. So now most of the times, I don't even try to go in the cage. I go, whatever, let them do whatever they want to do. But I have definitely seen people sneak in or be denied, like it's a VIP club where they go, no, man, we got too many people in the cage. So if you've ever been to a local show, there can be mass chaos. I have seen fights after fights, which is wait. What is it?
Yeah, it was on. I think it was 2 fights ago with Reese. We did that. My mom had a better fight in the stands than I had in the
Hold on, bro. What? This was your mom that got into a fight?
My mom. We got like a little mini brawl in the stands. It was to the point where everyone like is coming to me. Sorry, Heather broke a nail that night trying to break up an argument. But people are looking at me, the guy who just got done fighting, and they're telling me you need to break up your 100 and something people you got in the stands. I'm like, all right, well, I'll figure it out right now. They're trying to, it was hilarious, bro. But now when I show up to SPARSTAR events, people ask me, is your dad here? Because my dad's like the ringleader, I guess, but it's so hilarious. Like, as soon as my dad's there, everyone like is on their toes. Like, all right, this guy's dad's here. We got to be ready.
Yeah, your dad looks like no nonsense, very chill. It's very nice to have that warm presence. It's surprising to me that I'm like, oh yeah, I've seen some brawls, and you're like, about that.
Yeah. I'm proud of him. My family puts in work in and out the cage, bro. Just what we do. I'm just the one they pick to put on TV. That's all.
It runs in the family,
in the family, but to be honest with you, I'm not the best one.
Yeah? Who's the best one in your family?
There's too many of us to be dude. I mean, like, I have 7 brothers,
7 brothers?
They're all over 6 foot.
Oh, so, no, I'm sorry, man.
That's why I'm how I am. Because if I'm getting my ass handed to me by 6-something foot guys on a regular basis, I'm not fucking denying.
Well, you had to learn how to be scrappy.
Oh, yeah, bro. That's why I got that fire.
7 brothers. Okay, we've got a lot to unpack here. We gotta start to wrap on the SPARSTAR thing, because people can see the breakdown of that. We'll do that separately. But I should ask this. What did it feel like to get that win? Because in the moment when I saw them talking to you, and I don't know if you picked this up, and I don't even know if I said this, but I thought I said, when I learned that you had the injury,
right?
I was like, he shouldn't be
doubting me.
What's that?
So you look like you were doubting me. Like, what? He fought like that?
Well, no, it wasn't that. It was more me going like, I saw that you were trying to explain you wish you could give a better performance. Definitely. And I hate that, because as somebody who's observing it, I don't want to ever allow you, when you give a good performance, to question that good performance. You're in your head thinking, I didn't win the way I wanted to. Whereas I'm watching it with perspective of, no, you did a really good job. You should be proud of that. The problem is you don't have perspective because you don't have the time away from it yet. So that's why when you're like, yeah, you kind of had that tone where it was like, you seem a little disappointed. I was like, go back and watch that fight. And so I think I said something along the lines of, I hope when he goes back and watches this, he will see what he did. And I think now you have that perspective. You have that time away from it. But what did it feel like, though, from that?
I mean, I knew I won the fight. Like going into the third round, I just knew like, okay, all I had to do is weather this third round. Like as long as I got through that third round, I knew I was up 2-1. Based on, I mean, just on the writing time alone. I mean, outside of the buggy choke, in each round, I held him down 2 minutes. The guy had 1 minute in round one and 1 minute in round two. He closed both rounds. Actually, in the first round, he had the last minute. In the second round, he had the first minute. In the third round, he had about 95% of the time.
Did you know that at the time, though? Because I think what gets lost sometimes in this is knowing exactly how much ride time or how much control time that you have. So do you know that in that moment, in that fight?
For the most part, I do a very good job at calculating my positioning and stuff like that. The second round, I wasn't very confident about.
It felt iffy.
It felt iffy due to the fact because there wasn't very much going on, you know. But I was like, once I went back and I watched it and I listened to how you even try to explain how the biggest move was the buggy, and I was like, okay, that was cool, but I mean, it depends on the perspective.
Absolutely,
you know, you might be looking at the buggy, but you could also look after that. He couldn't get up for 2 minutes, so
I think one of the things that I remembered saying was, I was trying to weigh out the possibilities on how they were judging it. As I said, they could look at it like this, and they could look at it like that. One of the benefits of being a commentator is that you're not judging it,
right?
But you're trying to inform people at home, hey, here are some scenarios that could happen. Because I find that when you take a very hard line stance and you're like, there's no way this guy is going to lose, and then you say that, and then they end up losing, you lose credibility as a commentator.
Right.
So one of the things you really won't see me do too often is saying out loud, being like, it's over, he's got this finished. I'm like, it's looking pretty bad here.
Right.
Because I hate when I see people do that and then you see a good escape artist and they're like, nah, fam, I already got out of this. So I try to caution that. But yeah, you're right. It is iffy, and you are right in the sense that you did look confident and that you probably compartmentalized what did or did not happen at the time. Yeah,
I mean, overall, with the win, I'm satisfied that I won, especially not being 100%. And that guy looked like, after the fight, he told me that guy was fucking training like hell to get ready for me. And I was like, oh, my bad, bro. The last 2 weeks, I couldn't do shit. I tried to ride an Aerodyne bike for cardio, and I couldn't ride an Aerodyne bike, you know? I was just hitting the sauna and the starvation mode for I cut weight like a wrestler sometimes. So luckily, this camp, I was a lot closer. Normally, I cut quite a bit of weight, but this time I got down to within a couple pounds. So it wasn't too bad. I think the biggest hindering was my knee. And outside of that, I'm very happy with my performance, my ability to adapt to the situation. Although I knew I could have put on a way better show if I was 100%. And like that was in the back of my mind the whole time, was like, I can't switch stances to implement other style of takedowns or attacks that I like. Because if I presented that leg, I would have been compromised.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, now that makes even more sense on the mount, because that was something that I kind of looked at and I go, oh, he got that mount. Like, it looks good. But again, check that out. We're going to have that segment on a little bit later. So congrats on that. Let's do a little bit of backstory. I want to hear how you get involved in martial arts. But now that I know you have 7 brothers. 7 brothers?
7 brothers.
Okay. Now that I know you have 7 brothers, I can kind of see that there was a need to be able to kind of maybe defend yourself or learn how to make sure that you aren't going to get, ragdolled too much. But where does martial arts find its way for you, sir?
Well, I mean, I'm just another kid from East LA, knucklehead, from City Terrace, single mom household. Just grew up like everyone else in East LA, beans and rice, and nothing was nice, But I learned some karate in City Terrace, East LA Community Center. We did karate there. That's where martial arts started for me. Outside of that, I started learning about MMA, like UFC, when it was on Spike TV. Then that's when Chuck Liddell was a champ, Lyoto Machida. That era was when I started to pick up fighting. And I drew an interest towards it because I'm not very freaking coordinated when it comes to baseball and basketball. I have like the best basketball defense. But don't ask me to shoot a basketball. You know what I mean? I can catch a baseball all day. Don't ask me to swing a bat. I will never hit that ball. And being a hothead, it just like fighting was second nature. And once I got to probably, let's say 13, 14 years old, I started training under Victor Candel out in Garden Grove. Thanks to my Uncle Brian, hooked me up. He took me out there. Then I went to Milliken High School at the time, and I was wrestling in high school. And that's where kind of it started to take off. I was still a knucklehead, you know, I'd do good, then I'd get bad grades. Then I ended up wrestling for West Covina under Coach Donnie Stevens. That's probably the coach that took me the most serious, and where someone who tried to develop my character as a person and not just my athletics between him and his wife. You know, Mama Duck did a really good job in trying to keep me scholar based, but I was one of those guys that's like, I don't need to go to school. All those guys that go to school are going to be working for me, you know. And I still carry myself with that mindset. I mean, I didn't graduate high school and I've already ran a business, you know. It's pretty cool. Martial arts for me has just been something that other people go to church, and martial arts is my church, bro. I go to the gym to train. I've trained at so many gyms. We'd be here all day for me to explain to you the list of coaches I've trained under. But to say my most recognizable and the people that I could say stand out to me would be like when I started with Victor Candel out in Garden Grove. He was very great for me. Won my first couple matches with him for Pancration. You ever seen those USA Pancration? So we won a couple Pancrations with him. Then we did like a little hiatus where we're just growing up, you know, life. And I would say I started taking everything very serious in high school with Coach Donnie and his wife, Shirley. They were very helping me. They were trying to get me on the Greco team for the state. I have a very good upper body wrestling, as you've seen. Like a couple fights ago, I went against the Greco state champ and he didn't take me down. We had a boxing match. So yeah, my upper body wrestling's fairly well. I have a really good blast double. After high school, I just worked. I had a kid at 17. For martial arts, I picked it up again probably when I was about 20 years old. I started doing jiu-jitsu with my coach, Lucas Leite, and I've been with him ever since. Along the way, I've tried out different other gyms and for striking reasons. But my jiu-jitsu, as of like 21 years old till today, has all been under Lucas Leite. My striking now, I'm doing under Armando, my coach Mondo out in Ontario Boxing Club. He's been a blessing for me, dude. That guy, he knows how to work. He knows, opposed to getting me to implement a different style, he's taking the tools that I have and he's sharpening them and he's helping me build a game around them, opposed to having me drop everything and try to develop something that's non-existent.
Okay. We're going to break some of these up because you covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, that's all.
Okay, let's start with the first thing that kind of piqued my interest. You referred to yourself at a certain era in your life as a hothead.
Right.
I don't know that I get that about you, but I also don't know that I've brought that out of you. No. So can you give me an example of your hot-headedness, or that now you can look at?
It's very easy, man. I mean, I've been to 17 different schools in my life for fighting purposes. I was one of those kids that like, I could say your mama jokes, and as soon as you said your mom, you were already bleeding, bro. Like I was.
Okay, so let's take a moment here. Why are you allowed to do the joke? And you have a good sense of humor. I know that about you.
Yeah.
But when somebody did it back to you, you were like, too far, buddy.
Oh, it's because I mean, I grew up in like growing up with a bunch of brothers. The hierarchy is, I didn't grow up in a democracy, bro. It was very Neanderthal. As long as I can impose my will, I am correct.
So, okay. How much older is your oldest brother?
My oldest brother is probably, he's in his late 30s, to be honest.
Okay, so there's a range.
Yeah, there's about a 12-year gap between me and my oldest brother.
Okay, cool. I mean, that helps to understand. Who was the one that was, or well, I guess we should start with this and establish, were they ever beating you up or were they ever picking on you?
Oh, man. That's like That old man over there used to freaking line. I mean, I was bad. I mean, I used to ditch school all the time, and then my dad would, to the point where my dad would show up to school to pick me up to take me fishing, and I wouldn't be at school. So they're looking at my dad like, "You don't know where he's at. We don't know where he's at. He's not at school." And I'd get home, and my dad's like, "How was school today?" I'm like, "Oh, school was fine. I was late to second period. You might have got a phone call." So I mean, I was very nonchalant about like, I just was very reckless.
So let me see if I'm picking this up right, which is you even recognize now. You're like, no, I got my comeuppance. It wasn't even necessarily being picked on. It was a scheduled hello and welcome home for your reckoning.
Yo, yeah, dude, it was a regular thing. Like, I mean, with my dad, it was like it was guaranteed. Once a month, I was getting my ass beat. Like not like your mom's 3 whips with the belt. No,
Sure.
I was in a physical altercation with people, and if I didn't swing back, it just stopped until you started swinging back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a different upbringing, of course. But it's crazy because like without all of that, I wouldn't be the guy I am today. And it's like I know who I can rely on. Where a lot of people go out with their buddies, and you're like, "Oh, we're gonna get in a fight," and then your buddy runs away. You know, and you're like, "Dude, what the fuck just happened? I thought you had my back there. Now you're getting packed out." Like, I don't have that problem. Me and my brother's like, do or die, bro. You know, it's like people have to join gangs. I never had to join a gang. I got 7 brothers. I'm from a gang. You know, I was born into one.
That's fair. That's a statistical anomaly, because I find this with a lot of Brown families, which is there is a little bit of a resiliency. You know, sometimes you find like, listen, dude, I didn't have this upbringing. I didn't have that. However, when people would start to scrap with me, they think that they could just kind of have their way and like beat me up. And then they're like, you're kind of durable. Like, you might not be winning the fight, but we're not putting you away. And I was like, I don't know. I can't explain it. It's just what happens. Right. And so then I found that was my superpower in jiu-jitsu is, I'm very durable. So that means like I kind of can be in the fight at all times. So what's that?
So you're the Rock.
I guess. Are you saying like the Rock from WWE or
no,
just like
you're just a Rock? You're just a durable piece.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think so. I think that like, you know, I would tell people, I'm like, I'm just smart enough to know that's not like the bullet point you want on the tail of a tape.
Right.
Like, that doesn't make you a fighter. Right. You know, like if they're like, if they ever say like durable, takes a beating, it's like, wait, do we have any other attributes that I'm good at? Those aren't the ones that I want to sell. Oh, man. But for you, if that's the case, you know, and you're looking back at that, and you said that you went to all these different schools and that you were getting into confrontations with people, like, how are you able to look past that now or back at it now? Because you're way more mature, I'm sure of it. It's just, I don't think your story is that different in that respect. It's just people have different circumstances on how they get away with it or how they have to deal with it.
Right.
And I think in your case, you had to deal with it, because I can list you a number of people who are like, oh yeah, their parents just took care of that. Like, we don't talk about that. But for you, it was like, no, that's your responsibility. You got to figure out what you're going to do with it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was fortunate. I'm fortunate enough to have parents that like my mom stood there and watched me break a kid's nose before to make sure his mom didn't jump in and stop me from breaking this kid's nose. So I'm raised very different. You know, it was a very no bullshit household. I mean, for me, it was, now looking back, I look at my parents like, what the fuck were you guys doing? Like,
sure.
You know, but I can appreciate it because I don't like, people can complain about a light bill and a phone bill, and those are dude, those are not complaints that I can make in my house. You will get laughed at talking about some shit like I can't pay a light bill or a phone bill. Those aren't real problems that people, I feel, are real. You know, those are man-made. You put that shit on yourself. You know, versus like with the whole fighting adversity thing, it was I lacked a lot of attention, so that was my outlet for attention. Because every time I was getting into a confrontation, well, mom had to come and become part of it, you know? And same thing with dad. When I got older, dad had to come and be part of it. So I learned like, I get attention when I fight, so I'm gonna keep fucking fighting, and that's when I get my parents to spend time with. I mean, when you got 7 brothers and 5 sisters, how are you gonna get attention, bro?
Oh, I didn't know you had sisters too.
Oh, bro, I got
man.
5. I've been an uncle before I was born, dude. I'm one of those guys.
That happens, bro. I mean, listen, you don't have to explain a Mexican family to me. On my mom's side, it was 8 brothers and sisters all together, and then on my dad's side, it was just 4. And I always felt like my dad had 4 brothers and sisters, and I go, just 4? It's like, mom's got 8.
Yeah.
How do you only have 4? And to me, You know, there's a lot of different ages. Like there were people who I thought were like my aunts who were my cousins.
Oh yeah.
So you kind of like look over and you're like, oh, you mean aunt? And they're like, no, she's your
cousin.
Your cousins. You're
You're
this level. And I go, huh?
Yeah.
I'm so much younger though. And now like I see it the other way where I'm like, yeah, that kid's my cousin. Whatever.
I think it's funny how like in like brown families, you can easily like nonchalant say like on my mom's side and on my dad's side. And we're like, oh yeah, bro, we all got that. You know? 'Cause, like if I broke it down like that, then like on my mom's side, I got 2 brothers and I got 3 sisters. And on my dad's side, rest of my brothers and 2 sisters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. So that does help to explain things, I'm sure, in terms of, all right.
I'm an only child.
Hey,
On paper.
on paper.
You're not allowed to say that at home, you know.
Yeah, of course. Oh, no, definitely not. No. But having said that, it is very funny, I guess, in one sense, that you went from having your parents coming to do the thing, like, oh, when you get into a fight, to now, hey, man, I'm making money for these fights now. Everybody's coming to see these fights. So it meant that some good things had to happen. And obviously, I don't know part of the middle ground, so we're going to go back to that. But when you get with somebody like a Lucas Leite, like, that's a world-class athlete. So one thing that you know is you're going to get good training, but you also know he doesn't take BS. Like,
Oh, no.
that man has a very regimented way of doing things and making sure that, yeah, he's going to build those next champions, but like, you don't hear BS with that man. You don't hear bad things like that. Like, he's got his affairs in order. So I think like those two combining, in addition to when you mentioned you were getting into wrestling. So let's actually pick up back there. When you say that, you know, school, not probably the funnest,
Right.
but then you find wrestling. It is a good reminder that like those extracurriculars can be very, very pivotal in people's lives. So what did it feel like? What attracted you to the wrestling, aside from just an outlet? Like, what did you start kind of appreciating about that process?
So with wrestling, it was one of those things more along the line of, I already had looked at MMA and I was like, oh, a lot of the guys are wrestling. And at the time when I was wrestling and MMA, wrestling was still not considered a martial art. And I think now we're starting to derive wrestling as a martial art. And I think that's respectable because it is a martial art and it is one of the oldest martial arts that we have. You know, we made pro wrestling and it diluted our amateur wrestling. But I think it should be the other way around. I think amateur wrestling should be pro wrestling and pro wrestling should be the Olympics because those are the guys really wrestling. You know what I mean? I mean, no shout out to all the pro wrestlers. Those guys are getting way beat up on a regular basis. But wrestling for me was an outlet that I was able to express myself. Like I said, I wasn't very coordinated. I'm naturally aggressive. So whenever I played a sport, I was too aggressive. I'd get fouled out. And then I'm pissed off because I'm fouled out of a basketball game, a soccer game. And I can play every sport. I mean, ADHD allows you to do all kinds of shit. You know? It's just, that's my superpower. Like, you're durable. I'm like a squirrel. You know, I got 10 seconds to do what I got to do, but I'll do it in those 10 seconds, bro. So, yeah.
It's so great because I think it's very interesting. The sport brings people of different, experiences and lives all together. And so while I don't at all claim I would have an experience like you did growing up, there's a lot that I actually relate to in terms of like, oh yeah, I remember those days. Like, I didn't feel like soccer was my sport, but I played it for 11 years.
Because you're sucks.
Yeah, because you don't get a choice. And when people would be like, we would talk about this with my friends and they go, oh, did you do wrestling when you were in high school? And I was like, no, man, you can't break that soccer. I was like, you gonna go to a Brown family and be like, I'm sorry, guys. I'm like, no. We were very much like, you're going to soccer.
It's like saying you're not Catholic anymore, huh?
Bro, absolutely. And I remember I had a very, very, very pivotal moment with my parents where I played baseball for 6 years and I was starting to love soccer more. And I pulled my parents aside. We went to Claim Jumper and I went to them and I said, this is the last year I am playing baseball. And my parents were like, no. And I go, what do you mean, no? I don't want to play it anymore. They're like, one more year. And I go, I like soccer better. I want to do soccer year round. And we're having what I'm sure is like to everybody else, a really annoying conversation at a restaurant, publicly, loudly. But I remember throwing this fit and being like, I don't want to do this anymore. And you know what's funny? I recently came across these stats, and my pops would sit in the back, and he would actually keep score, but he would do more than keep score. He would actually keep records of your batting average.
Oh, nice.
So he was doing it for the whole team, but he kept it for me. And I had these like full on stats. And I put up one on my social media the other day. And of course, one of the biggest baseball nerds that follows us goes, yo, man, you were really good that year. And I was like, I had a pretty good year. And it just makes me laugh because that was a year I didn't want to play.
Oh, man.
And they were like, just give me one more year. So cut to me playing baseball. And I had thought about doing the wrestling team. I had an interest in it, but I was like, nah, I'm going to see the soccer thing through. And thank God, because soccer is the only thing that kept me skinny.
Bruh.
And once I stopped playing soccer, I found weight. And then once you find weight, sometimes it doesn't lose itself. So I like to tell people, I was like, soccer kept me thin, which is good. So it gave me a few extra years on lease. So that's when you're doing it. Let's go to your first jiu-jitsu class. What do you remember about your very first jiu-jitsu class itself?
My very first jiu-jitsu class, I didn't even know what we were doing. They gave me a gi, like your first trial gi. You just always never fits you right. You know, I had wearing a big old judo gi. I want to say we're doing over some closed guard, some fundamental stuff, and I just picked the dude up and slammed him, you know, like he's closed guard. I said, all right, well, you can do that. I'm going to slam you. And then they started explaining the rules. I go, wow, there's rules to this? Like, I didn't even know. I just, you know, like I watched the UFC. All right, those guys do jiu-jitsu. This guy's going to try to move. I'm going to slam him on his head like Rampage Jackson.
Yep.
And got yelled at, but started to learn a little bit. And jiu-jitsu was an interesting relationship because most jiu-jitsu guys are very relaxed and it's more of a responsive sport where you're just trying to decipher something. You're trying to take what people are giving you, where versus like wrestling is more imposing your will.
Yeah.
So I went in with that wrestler mentality of I'm just going to grind these dudes.
Yeah.
And it was like, I grinded some dudes, but once you started getting to the upper echelon of the class, you just start like getting mauled and you're like, what's going on here? I'm being as mean as possible and it's not working. I can't get it. Like your Hulk smash is not doing it anymore.
I mean, you weren't going to grind Lucas.
No,
so
dude,
that's top tier, but the minions of Lucas aren't going to be bad either. So when you're coming in being like, I've got this wrestling, which a lot of jiu-jitsu people don't,
right.
It gets you the entry level. But then once you're on the ground, you're going straight into where they're best. So I could understand how that handoff happened. I like to ask this of people, and everybody has a different response to it. But the reason why I asked this particular question is you have to really love this sport to pursue it as a career. When did you know that you actually fell in love with jiu-jitsu? Because think about all the things that you do now. A lot of that had to stem from having good moments in jiu-jitsu or things that you really resonated with or things that you're like, yeah, I could do a million other things, but I want to do this. So when did you find that love and passion for jiu-jitsu?
For jiu-jitsu, I mean, jiu-jitsu is one of those things where I just love the movement of it. I love the ability to how would I say this without sounding as crazy as I am? The ability to simulate murder and this guy cannot complain. You know what I mean? You get to go out there and try to kill this dude and it's pretty much up to him whether or not he wants to die, you know? If he wants to tap or not, you can choke him out, you can break his arm. It was one of those things where it was like, I can hurt you and like you signed up to get hurt. So I think that's what I was more in love with. I mean, as a white belt, I did fairly well in jiu-jitsu. I won a Pan American championship. I won a national championship for jiu-jitsu. And I think I only lost like one or two matches as a white belt. Jiu-jitsu, as a blue belt, I did no-gi worlds. I lost in the first round. And then like I started doing MMA. I was like, you know what? The whole reason I started jiu-jitsu was to do MMA. What the fuck am I doing here? Yeah, it was jiu-jitsu is one of those passions that I've always had because I knew how important it was.
Yeah.
And that's why I picked Lucas Leite, because a lot of guys who do MMA, I think they fuck up by just going to the local jiu-jitsu gym and, oh, I'm going to learn spider guard and I'm going to be a De La Riva guard. And then like, okay, I want you De La Riva spider guard me in an MMA fight, dumbass.
Yep.
I think I did my homework right when I picked Lucas Leite with his half guard and based on the area and everything I'm at. Like, there's not a better coach you can pick with a good no-gi record whose abilities you can implement and they go from gi to no-gi. And I don't really have to switch much, but like 3 grips.
And it's nice because he has such a legendary half guard, which is such an important both offensive and defensive position in MMA. Correct. That the better understanding you have of that, the more applicable it is. It's not just like, hey, I'm just going to do footlocks, or I'm just going to do this gi version of something. It's an applicable thing that you're able to take into your MMA side. So that does make sense. And I want to kind of point this out. I know it's weird because you're hearing yourself say these things that sound crazy, but I promise you, it's not far off from most of the goons who do this sport.
Right.
Because the way I explain it to people is I'm like, hey, I hate the treadmill. They're like, yeah. And I go, but you know what I'm okay with? Someone trying to murder me because they're trying to kill me. And guess what? That makes me work out. But telling me to run somewhere on a still thing or on a bike sounds terrible. But if one of my friends is like, I'm going to try and suffocate you, I'm kind of like, yeah, that's fine. Try it. Let's see how it happens. And so to me, I'm like, no, I get that. I think the weird part is it just sounds in the delivery of it. Right. So maybe
like hearing it out of your own mouth is like, wow, am I really saying this right now?
But you being like, all right, I don't want to get canceled for this, but I like murder. And I'm like, let's work on the pitch. Yeah, maybe that's what we got to do.
Just less, I'm so blunt. I'm one of those guys.
That's fine. I'm just saying I'm letting you know this is feedback. You're not that off from the rest of us.
Killing people's fun.
But nope, still, nope. Because let me point this out. If you do some dumb shit, this is the interview that like the defense or the prosecution is going to be like, this dude said it at this moment in this interview. And I'm going to be like, I'm not scrubbing this. I'm so sorry.
Simulate murder.
There we go. That's you know what? Just like you were this close to being off and you found your way back on.
You see, there we go. Yeah, I saved myself.
So I guess the other question is, and this should be obvious hearing the progression of where things went for you, but you could have at any time decided not to. Why MMA? Because, yeah, you could have had all those experiences and then said, like, I like this thing. I don't have to fight. But I think by the time you were able to fight, you were a different person than somebody who just was acting out for attention. Right. You were a different person than, I don't know what these powers are. I'm figuring this out. You would hone a craft. You would become somebody who is good at this craft, but you don't have to fight. So I guess why did you feel the need to fight at that stage in your life?
Fighting is just one of those things that like, why the reason I chose to pick fighting was because it seemed the most natural thing for me. It's just something I've done. Like a lot of people say, I fought my whole life. I've really fucking fought my whole life. Like I've lived in some of the worst neighborhoods you can live in. You know, I've lived in City Terrace. I lived in Watts in the Imperial Courts, but I don't know how much you know about your geographics, but you're not supposed to be Mexican in that neighborhood. Yeah. I've made it out in one piece. You know, that's not many people can say that and still have all their teeth intact. I just, once I realized that, like, it was always a passion I've had since I was about 14 years old, but that was just something I told myself, like, dude, if you could do anything, that's something you can do. And it just resonated with me so well that like most people have to fight and they're not comfortable. I can fight, and when I'm sparring, I'm laughing and I'm talking shit. Like, when I'm in a gym, I can be there all day, bro. It does not matter to me what we're doing. Take me to 24-hour fitness. I want to leave in 10 minutes. I don't want to lift any weights, you know? But put me in a gym. I'll stay there with you all day, dude. I don't care if we're wrestling, jiu-jitsu, boxing, kickboxing. We're freaking going to do some Wing Chun. Tell me what we're going to do, bro. I will be there with you. It's one of those things that I'm more comfortable in fighting, and I've been able to find my persona in fighting, and that's why I've been the most comfortable in my own skin is when I'm fighting. Outside of that, I'm very chaotic. I'm very out in the open, and fighting is one of those things where the noise goes away, and that's like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be, you know? It's one of those very spots, even when I'm tired, you know, it's one of those spots where like, I'm supposed to be here right now, and I can resonate with that on a regular basis. It's not, I don't question myself when I say, should I be fighting? It's like, I'm fighting, and I have all these great reasons for fighting that there's no reason that I should be denied my opportunities.
I think what I like hearing the most is the transformation of, you know, I'm sure when you're acting out for attention or you're trying to find your way, because a lot of people when they're growing up, they'll hold a lot of weight on who they used to be. So there's going to be like a lot of baggage. They think like, oh, I don't like that guy. That guy wasn't good yet. That guy wasn't who I was supposed to be. I think that helped to inform decisions on who you are, because in my interactions with you, you know, you follow us and they're very lighthearted and funny. And then when I see your stories, they're so full of like joy. Like, yeah, you have a dark sense of humor at times, but it's so much more on like, it seems like you're in a much better space. Right. And I feel like martial arts can be a huge attribution to that. And so now you have this ability, as we've seen, to choose to fight. And you're doing it in a way that is like, hey, I'm at a good place. I like this. I enjoy the people and the journey that I'm having through martial arts. And you've been able to get through some rough situations in your life and make this work for you in a very positive light. So I think that there's a lot to be said on the journey that you went through to get to here. It just felt, I'm sure at the time, very overwhelming at times and very uncertain during many eras of it.
I mean, fighting is one of these things where they sell us all a dream. You know, it's not one of these dreams where like you're going to end up with a PhD and it don't matter if you're 60 years old. You know, fighting, you have a very short window span, you know, is this dream. And if you don't chase your dreams, you just end up, you lose these opportunities. And well, I still have the opportunities. I want to show myself that I'm capable of doing things. I just, you know, I grew up like in a rough neighborhood, and all my peers, immediate peers, were like very what if, you know, but no one ever took the shot. Yeah. No one went out there and put their neck on the line because everyone's embarrassed, you know. You go out there and you fail and everyone laughs at you, now you don't want to try again. So I had to be the one to go out there and fail in the public. I mean, if you look at my fights, I lost my first fight. Luckily, the cameras weren't working that day, so no one can get that. I got it on video.
Are you serious? Is that a real thing?
That's a real thing, bro. I have 3 wins in a row, but my first fight, I watched it. I could see why I lost, but I beat the fuck out of this dude. He never fought again. Okay, but I lost my first MMA fight. You know, and I didn't let that deter me from continuing, because it's something I knew I was gonna do, and I knew failing is part of the process. If you're not failing, how are you gonna succeed? You know, you need those to help weigh out. You need some ugly days to weigh out the good days.
Yeah. I still can't believe they didn't have their cameras working. Like, you know, that sounds like something that you say to be like, oh yeah, it's not out there. You can't find it. Look for it. Like, you know what I mean? But when you're like, no, they legit don't have it. I'm like, in this day and age, how?
I was like so in awe. I was like, dude, the cameras weren't working. I was like, this is amazing, bro.
To his credit, though, when I do my homework and I sit there and I watch your fights, or I do like all right, we're going to interview, I should brush up on these things, and I watch it, I was kind of like, I found 3 of them.
Yeah.
It just happened to be the 3 you won. Okay, I guess that's good. But yeah, man, good for you. Because if you were able to scrub that from the internet as well,
oh yeah, dude,
then I'm going to be making you somebody in charge of scrubbing other things in the future for us. Yeah. But I want to say this, which is, you know, I wanted to do this interview to get to know a little bit more about you and your process and how you did it. And I'm glad that we were able to kind of do the first part of what I'm sure will be many more chapters, because as you mentioned, you were competing in jiu-jitsu, you did the ADCC Open. I thought that's really dope. I know that's a great experience for a lot of people. And selfishly, I know that a lot of MMA people, even if they don't do MMA, will probably still be in jiu-jitsu in many forms. But now I see you working with kids over with Lucas. I see you teaching regularly. You're doing those early AM classes. And it just looks like you have such a passion, because I see you driving everywhere with it and just a good attitude from it. So I'm very happy for you in the way that you've been able to turn that around, man, because you seem like you're good for the sport, and I want you to ride that wave. But more than anything, I hope that you find a sense of true joy as you're doing it, because it's very fun to watch you fight.
Thank you, man. Yeah. I mean, jiu-jitsu, martial arts in general, but especially jiu-jitsu, is something I'm trying to use in order to travel the world. You know, that's what I'm trying to be, a martial arts nomad. And well, it's one of the ways you can do it is by helping expand my knowledge. And I think one thing I have is I have a good character, and I bring a lot of, how would you say, charisma into a room where, like, as long as you're not an egotistical person and you're not worried the light being on you, you won't have a problem. Those are only people I tend to have problems with, is people who are used to being like the center of attention. Where I have no problem coming to a room and like, I'm trying to boost up the work, because you're only as strong as your weakest link. So yeah, you can't be picking on everyone all day, but if I'm not picking on you, I don't like you. Okay, that's to get that out the way. But just know that when I start criticizing you, it's just because I care about you, bro. And I want everyone in the room to succeed and you have fun with jiu-jitsu and actually show like jiu-jitsu is for everyone. Because you see people out there with one arm, one leg, and they make it work, dude. There's some of these guys you see and you're just like, I wouldn't grapple that guy. Like that doesn't make it. Even if you to you he's handicapped, but to me he's not. He's like he's lived like that his whole life. He's not handicapped, bro. He's developed a rule and a skill set that's allowed him to be that person. And that's the beauty of jiu-jitsu, is that our ability to share with everyone. And no matter what your excuse is, if you're 300 pounds, if you're 90 pounds, there's a way for you to experience this and have a good time. You know, you just got to find the right group of people for you to work with. And jiu-jitsu literally is for everyone. You know, I mean, look at me. I'm freaking a thug, stupid kid from East LA, you know, and then you got me in a room with doctors, lawyers, cops, you know. It just, no one I should ever be in a room with outside of a jiu-jitsu gym, or I would never probably see. I see them there, and through that, we built a camaraderie that you wouldn't get anywhere else, you know, at a bar, wasting your time. You don't get those type of camaraderies anywhere else.
Here's what I would say, though. I think you're at a point now where I think you should take some ownership of, you were a thug, I think. I don't know that you can do that anymore. I don't know that that's who you are. It informed who you are, right. But like, I think you're different now. I think you're at a different place. But like, for the sake of purposes, like in a rap video, like, yeah, I'm a thug. Yeah, sure, whatever. But like, to me, I see you as a peer, not as that. Thank you. So as somebody in the sport, like, I see you as a very solid brown belt who is going out there doing their thing. So I think from here on out, I would challenge you to carry yourself in that light, because I think that the nice part about having perspective, being a little older, is that you're always at different chapters. And I think the chapter you're on now is one that is, you're still writing it. So be open to what that new chapter is.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I'm obviously open to character development. I'm always trying to keep myself open to new ideas. And not only that, but to be able to articulate myself in a room with just about anyone. You know, that's probably the biggest thing I should be focusing on right now, especially proceeding in my career. I should be able to hold conversations with just about any group of people I'm in. Not necessarily offending anyone because of my...
Yeah, I mean, whatever.
But you know, you got time and place where you get to talk a certain way. You get to talk to your people is the way you talk.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yes, I know. I always get very entertained when people are like, I didn't know you talk like that. I was like, what do you mean talk like that? Shut up, dude. And they'd be like, no, you just brought out the fucking LA part of me.
You got the business.
Yeah, it was like,
and you start answering your own questions. Are you hungry? Yeah, huh? And then you're like, oh, dude, you just, you know.
I just, there's always a little bit of a shock where I'm like, don't forget where I grew up, guys. Like, I'm not always that person. I can be somebody else. But
that's where I'm at too. I mean, living out there in Crestline, everyone's like, oh, you know, I live with all these older, like middle class people, and then you get this Mexican kid. I'm the only guy up there in their 20s and is brown, and they're looking at me, and then, you know, I articulate myself a certain way. I respond to them properly, and then the second they think they're a little bit ahead, I flip a switch and like, oh, dude, that guy is crazy. Like, yes, so please don't make me have to do that.
No. I think you're at a good place now where you can kind of have some fun, and I think that's great. Here's what I'm gonna do for you right now. That camera right there, sir. I want you to go ahead and tell the people where they can go train with you, because I know it's got to be great to get the wonderful training that you are getting in jiu-jitsu, but you're obviously doing other things. So if you want to slang privates or give a nod to all of those folks who helped you get ready for your camp, or even any sponsors that you want to take care of, that's your camera right there. All yours, sir.
All right. So quick shout out. Thank you to everyone who's supporting me along the way so far. Thank you to Lucas Leite at Checkmat Upland. If you're ever in the IE and you need good jiu-jitsu, come down. We got classes from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. We'll be there till like 10 o'clock at night, 10:30, whenever Lucas decides to kick us out, to be honest with you. He doesn't like to leave either. He'll stay with us all night. If you want to work your hands, you can find me at Ontario Boxing Club out there with Jerome and Coach Mondo. We're down there on Holt and Euclid. Yeah, come down, work your boxing with us. They got a great team, great staff. I recommend it for adults and kids. If you want to work with me personally, get at me in my DMs on Instagram at Al Lobo Jutsu. I hold privates for wrestling, jiu-jitsu, and striking as well. Just get at me and we'll figure it out, whatever your interests are. And Thank you guys for supporting me. I like to thank my sponsors at Ivaciao Jiu-Jitsu. I like to thank Bax AC Service. I like to thank Top Termite for all your support over the last 4 years. Yeah, I like to thank my boy Oscar for helping me with that promo video, and everyone who comes out and supports me. I really appreciate you guys. You know, we're all out here chasing a dream, and you know, just hopefully we get out there and we make it happen. That's what we're out here trying to do.
That's what's up, man. Well, congratulations to you once again. You did a great job, and I'm looking forward to breaking down this fight. So we're gonna get doing that, and then I think we're gonna, you know,
Worth the $5, guys. Trust me, dude. It costs.
Here's what I like to tell people: you nerds, you're like me. You like tape study. So all I'm doing is I'm trying to facilitate real life tape study, not like the tape study of you in the room.
Yeah,
this is you battle tested and finding out more information and learning from the guy, because I'm putting out some best guesses whenever I'm doing commentary.
Right here. Come on,
so
$5. Would you spend $5 on a coffee every day?
I'm saying, bro. It's $5 a month. Get $5 out of here, bro.
Dude. Come on, you guys are embarrassed. Who don't got $5? I'll give you the $5.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. Let them do it. They got it on their own.
I was joking.
Hey, before we go, a couple quick reminders. He said it best. HY.PAGE /grappling hour. Become a member. $5 a month to see these videos 30 days before anybody else. And if you pay a few dollars extra, you can get that extra bonus content that we're doing, extra breakdowns, extra bonus episodes, laugh at my competition footage or roast me. I don't give a shit. Just do the things. And then join us on the Discord. And if you made it this far in the video, you can like, share, and comment on this YouTube page, because guess what? You watched all the way. Like, you're not turning it off right now. So even if you didn't have something to say about this interview, why not you just tell me your favorite match in jiu-jitsu? That's it. Doesn't even have to regard to this conversation. Just tell me what your favorite match in jiu-jitsu was, and we will keep it going. Ladies and gents, my appreciation to you for watching, and I think that's going to do it for us here. It's been a great day for grappling. We'll see you back on the mats.
Perfect.